put my mic
Hi, everybody on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to the weekly pet roundup. Last week we were taking a little hiatus. The week before we were live from Super Zoo.
Oh, we did. Yes, that's right. We did that.
Yes.
I almost forgot we did that.
We definitely did that.
I definitely needed last week to get caught up because it was, holy moly. It was a crazy week for me.
Yeah, I was sick in bed with COVID. So
my goodness.
I worked a lot. I caught up and I phoned in the housework and the mommy work and took care of myself. Still wouldn't call it a relaxing week, but I got a break, which is good. So it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't even remember last week. It was so busy for me. I had so many calls. Oh my gosh. Because I didn't have calls for like 2 weeks. And then I had to anyway. We're all getting settled back into our routines this week. So we're finally going to be talking about routines. What is this? I think this was the third time we tried to schedule it. So third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. I mean, I personally feel like routines are the best thing we can do for our pets, for our kids, for ourselves. I know that some people thrive like flying by the seat of their pants, but that is really not the majority of people.
No,
I find that pets tend to be on if that was a spectrum of like fly by the seat of my pants and like know exactly what's happening every second of every day, I feel like our pets would be on the spectrum of knowing what's coming. Especially if you have like a busy family life, like kids or new babies or new pets or old pets, those are the ones that are going to be the least kind of resilient at times because they really need that guidance. So we were thinking this would be a good chat just to check back in with ourselves even and the routines that we've set up for ourselves as pet parents. I know part of my routine is every day walking Kira in the morning or in the evening, depending on the time of year. Right now I'm doing the morning because the afternoons get to about 110 degrees. So we can't do the afternoon walk. So I started in the morning and, over the summer it was hard because first of all, I was gone and she was in the care of a pet sitter. So I did have the pet sitter walk her every day. But even getting back, with the travel and with just preparing the kids for school and with catching up from the work that I kind of had to put aside during the summer because the kids were off, I felt like that routine with Kira was getting kind of pushed to the back burner. And for her, that's like the best part of her day. Yeah. So I didn't want to, I give myself grace when it's too crazy and I can't get to it. But I take that walk so seriously that if like really I couldn't do it, I would hire a dog walker to do it and I would, suck it up and pay the money because it's so important for her well-being, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, whatever you want to call it. She just really needs these walks once a day. She doesn't ask for a long walk. She's 13. But it's so important. So for me, it was like either I get my butt back in gear or I need to get that dog walker scheduled to come at least Monday through Friday, right? So I finally am getting back in gear. Last week was rough because I was sick in bed, but my husband was able to take over those walks. It's nice to have a partner who is willing to do that because not everybody with partners will have somebody who's like, yeah, I'll walk the dog. And then, your single pet parents are, it's just you. So that pet really relies heavily on you to meet their needs and to get them on a routine that helps them like thrive even when life gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I know. Kim, so my dog is very, very sensitive and she can't even handle when like, if I go out to dinner with friends, because that's not normal. That's not something I do every week or even every month, right? Like that is not okay with her. So your kids have already started back to school, is that right?
Yes.
And I know and that's a little unusual. I think for most of the country, they do like right after Labor Day, which is going to be next week. At least that's how I grew up. It
That is
was
how I grew up too, but most of the school, like all of Texas that I know of already started in like El Paso, Houston, I think, and it's because a lot of the districts are on an annual schedule. So it's a year-long schedule rather than like 3 semesters, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. So we do an annual school year. So what we do is we start August 5th this year, then they have a 2 week, well, a week and a half off in October, 2 weeks off in December, 2 weeks off in March, and then they finish school for June pretty early in June. So
okay.
that's why. So it's very different because it's more breaks in between instead of that super long summer break. And I don't know what the thought process is behind it. I like it because we get to go on vacation in October, which is when I prefer to vacation. I don't like if I'm going to Europe, I'm not going in the summer. They don't have AC there.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So I love that I can travel in March and October, but I know for a fact that really affects my son who is
Mm.
neurodivergent, and he is really one of these kids that like needs routine to function. Even if we do something fun, like we went to Disney, just being out of routine at Disney, which is like the best place on earth, was so
Right.
hard for him. It's hard for him. So he almost prefers to like lay low at home than be at Disney for a week just because it's so kind of unsettling for him. And
Mm.
he's about to be 7. Tomorrow's his birthday. And he's still kind of figuring out how to like self-regulate and how to like self-soothe, and these things overstimulate him. So it's really important for me to apply all the things that I know about pets to my oldest, because he is very similar to all the animals that I've cared for, in that he really thrives in routine. He prefers to know what's happening. He doesn't love that like, unexpected change to our schedule. He likes peace and calm and like
Mm.
repetitive. He's a creature of habit. Whereas my daughter is kind of more like fly by the seat of her pants. She is so chill that like nothing bothers her unless it's like something like you tell her she can't wear an outfit, and she's 4, and like to her that's the end of the world. But like if we say, hey Mila, we're not going here, we're going here, she's like, okay. Whereas if I tell that to Noah, just like if I were to switch it up on my dog, like let's say that I say we're going on a WALK and then I get delayed, that's stressful for her because she's like ready to go. And like, heaven forbid, I know it's happened to everybody at some point where you like put the leash on them and then something happens and you get distracted and your dog's just sitting there like waiting with the leash on, and you're like, they're like, are we going, are we not going? So I've done that to Kira where it's like, oh my gosh, somebody spilled something, I was about to walk out the door,
Mm.
run back in, pick it up, or like I forgot the keys to the mailbox because we have mailbox down the street,
Yeah.
and I'll leave her with her even for like 30 seconds. She's like, why'd you change this
What's
on me? This is the
what's
plan.
going on?
Yeah. So we have to be really, I think it's really important as pet parents, as parents, even as individuals, to recognize our threshold on where we can be without routines, with routines, and where we thrive. And like, of course, showing ourselves grace, because routines are ideal, but they're never something that we can kind of comply with 100% of the time, especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a working professional, especially if you travel for work and like things just happen, right? You get sick, you're human. But at the same time, kind of prioritizing those routines for the sake of like the home environment and for the pets psyche and for your own psyche is really important. And it's kind of like almost like protecting a boundary when it comes to these routines. It's more than just I'm a creature of habit. It's this is for my well-being, and this is a boundary that I need to set for myself and those around me, that I will walk my dog in the morning and nothing will get between me and my walk in the morning with my dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And I so, you know, personal stuff about me, and, like, I have my cats on a routine where I feed them 3 times a day, and, I mean, I check on them very, very often. I'm with them a lot, but there are 3 specific times of the day that I feed them, and my husband hates that and has always hated that. And he does so much to try to get me to not do it. At certain it is, and so like I have to be firm and like I am taking care of my cats and this is what they expect. And you know, it's not 100% because yeah, sometimes I will go out to dinner with friends or very rarely, but we'll have a show to go to or you know, and things get in the way, but I try to make accommodations for them. And one of the things that I do, if I, oh yeah, so one of the things that I do with all of my pets is to talk to them. And I know that that for some people can seem really weird and woo woo, but like I let them know what is going on for the day, for what's
Yes.
happened. Like, even if you think that is the craziest thing you could be doing, maybe it's just benefiting me. I don't know, but I tell them, like, hey, I'm feeding you a little bit early because I'm going to be gone late. I'll be back by blah, blah, blah. Like, they know. And then if I'm going out of town, I let them know, the pet sitter is coming to take care of you and for how long and how many days, how many nights. Like I tell them and I like talk about it for many days before. Like it's a thing. It's a routine that I have with them, trying to get them to understand that like cuz that's that scares me more than anything else, especially working with so many dogs with separation anxiety, is like they truly do not know when you are coming back. And it's like it breaks my heart so hard that they may be sitting at home wondering like are they ever coming back. That scares me. That makes me
It's
so sad.
terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible and it's fact because they really
Yeah.
depend on us to, leave to go to because we've conditioned them to not go potty in the house, right? So
Yeah.
they're sitting there being like, I need to go to the bathroom and like I can't go anywhere. And I'm hungry and I can't go anywhere. Or I have a stomach ache and I have to
Yeah.
hold it. And
Yeah.
it's funny because it's something that we're dealing with my grandmother who's in assisted living. She
Mhm.
has like what people call sundowner syndrome, which does happen in the pets as well, where as they age and dementia in the evenings is when kind of they get more confused, more disoriented. And what's happening to her is that she panics at night in her assisted living facility in her room where she feels like nobody's coming.
Mhm.
And she has one of these like life alert things that's internal where she can, and she just calls them and meet like over and over and over again. And like the workers are working with everybody, getting everybody ready for bed. And to her, it's like she's in a wheelchair. She's in a city that's not her own. She lives in El Paso in an assisted living facility. She's confused. And I equate that to our pets. That's exactly what it is. She cannot fend for herself. My grandmother is wheelchair ridden on a second floor. Something were to
Oh,
happen, she knows
yeah.
she's defenseless. Our
Yeah.
pets are no different. Our pets know that they are defenseless. They know that they do not have opposable thumbs to open that door and let themselves out in the case of an emergency. And they're very, very much in touch with their survival instinct, right? So they really, more so than us, where we're just like distracted by the nice things about life, we're not constantly thinking about survival, where our pets usually are. Like they're like, I need to eat in order to survive. I need to have fresh water. I need to be able to go outside. Otherwise, I'm not allowed to go in the potty in the house, right? I need to see my person. Otherwise, I feel like I may have been abandoned and they might have trauma from abandonment in the past. So it's very complex. And so when they can foresee an activity, right? Like somebody has a 9 to 5 job where they leave at the same time every day, Maybe they go to the gym. Maybe it's even a long day. It doesn't even matter. But so long as you're leaving around the same time, coming back around the same time, feeding them around the same time. If you have a dog walker, as long as the dog walker is coming around the same time, it doesn't have to be exactly at noon. Because I was a professional dog walker and I had a professional dog walking business. And I can tell you right now that your dog walker cannot be at everybody's house at noon every day. Like there are routes and like we'll try to make everybody, get the same schedule most days. So we give people kind of like a slot. So the dog gets into a rhythm and the dog kind of like foresees that walk coming in. And dogs and cats are so smart. They know when it's a weekend.
Yeah.
They know because you didn't get up and you didn't get dressed and your routine looks different. So they get to the point where they understand this is the day she doesn't go in, or this is the day the family, sits on the couch and watches movies all day. Like this is something that they recognize that we often don't give them credit for, right? Like they know more than we think they know. And I even posted on back to school day, I promise you that Kira knew exactly what was happening. She saw the kids get their backpacks on. She saw Chris leave at the exact same time as he did back in June when they were in school. And she just sat there and was like, oh, now's my walk, right? The second Chris leaves, I walk her. So that is kind of a routine that we've gotten into, and it's a routine that works for everybody. And so she was ready, and it had been 2 months since we had really executed that routine, but she fell right back in line because that's something that we've been doing. So they take comfort in those little things, in like being able to kind of foreshadow what's coming, have a semblance of control, right? Because they don't control anything. It's kind of like I'm a pretty open-minded parent, and I try to be because I feel for my kids. They're 6 and 4 and they have no control over anything, right? We control what they eat. We control what time they get up. We control this. We control that. And so I feel bad for them in a sense. As much as I need to parent them and need to set boundaries, I do recognize that they don't have control. And sometimes I'll give them control, right? Just on purpose, right? Something really dumb. I'll be like, you get to choose the movie that we're watching, or you get to choose what we have for dinner, or you get to choose who goes first in the shower. Whatever it is. For our pets, that control comes with routines. It's like, I'm giving you the control of like sitting by the front door and waiting for me to walk you, or I'm giving you the control of knowing that at 4:30 you can sit on your cat condo because at 4:30 I'm going to feed you. And for the most part, at 4:30 I am feeding that cat, and at 4:15 he's already kind of circling the kitchen because he knows, right? And they know what time it is. Even when the time changes, they still are like, hey, it might be 5:30 according to your modern calendar, but for me it's 4:30, feed me, right? Like it's time. So I feel like one of the things that routines kind of gives people the impression of is like this rigidity, but there's so much positive in a routine. Like it's really should be something that you think of as like a self-care kind of part of your life, a routine, rather than some kind of strict structure that you can't attain.
Yeah, well, and with our, like you were saying, with our pet, I mean, it is so much about reducing their stress and reducing their anxiety, because we know that it has a negative effect on their overall health.
Of course.
And I mean, honestly, like we don't want them to be stressed and anxious anyway, but like knowing the actual physical like health um, factors that are associated
Right.
with increased like prolonged increased cortisol in the body. And so like I was saying earlier, dealing with a lot of dogs that have separation anxiety really made me like hypersensitive to that. But the reality is your dog or cat, because cats can get separation anxiety too, they just kind of show it differently, but they don't have to have like significant anxiety for us to want and need to put routines in place for them. as much as possible. And
Yeah.
like, I'm actually not a huge, me personally, just being a nutritionist and a health coach, like, I'm not generally for dogs a huge fan of always feeding at the same time. But if that's one of the few things that you can do, like if you do work, like I don't know, if you're a nurse and you do work days and nights and your schedule is crazy, if that's one of the few things you can do, then do that, because they do need to have as much um, predictability as we can give them, because they do, like Isabel was talking about, they, I could not imagine. It's like being an infant where you just
Mm-hmm.
can't do for yourself. I mean, especially a dog that's like crated. Like if you leave a dog crated for, and I know we've talked about this in the past and like times and all of that, but like any amount of time, you have reduced the, even where they can like walk to. Like
Yes, yes.
that drives me
No, yeah,
bonkers.
agreed. So a dog that is crated has even fewer choices, right? So like
Yeah.
speaking of like belly upset, a dog that really gets to the point where they can't hold it, even though they would never dream of going inside the house, will find a corner, go potty, and like hope for the best. But a dog that's crated has to go on their person, right? Like has to go on their body. They have nowhere else to go. So that starts bringing the anxiety up. It's similar to us, like where we're not trying to go like poop in our pants. And if there's an emergency, having options is certainly
Yeah.
a good thing. Our pets who are crated, dogs who are crated, do not have options. So again, it's that impression of control that we're taking little by little away from them. And there are ways for us to kind of put a little bit of control back into their paws, for lack of a better term, like give them that predictability of the feeding time, of the walk time, of your schedule. My mom with my grandmother, she calls her at the same time every day. And it works for both of them because it helps my mom remember to call, because my mom works full time, super high pressure job. And so before she knows it, there's a time change and she might be too late. But it also gives my grandmother some predictability and helps my grandmother kind of gauge what time it is during the day. She'll ask her caregivers, has my daughter called me yet?
Mm.
And they'll be like, no, it's too early. She'll call you in 2 hours. So it also helps the caregivers, because the caregivers kind of, if they're in the room preparing for her for dinner, they'll get the phone and leave it where they can help her answer. So routines help in so many ways, and it's so important for like us to recognize, not only for our family, for our kids, for our pets, but for us when we're overwhelmed. Routines help us remember our responsibilities, right? Like,
Mhm.
and this is one of my biggest fears as a parent. I'm sure you've heard of people forgetting their kids in the car and the kid perishes because it's so hot or so cold. Well, the
Yeah.
vast majority of those situations, and this happens with pets as well who are left in the car, it was something that was out of the routine. It was a different parent taking the kid to school. The different parent is not in the routine of taking the kid to daycare or whatever. So it is that person who is on autopilot going to work, forgets that the kid is sleeping in the car seat, doesn't realize it until somebody texts something about the kid, and all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, my kid, my dog, my cat is in the car and it's 110 degrees out. And that's when these tragedies happen, because routines help us remember to do the things that are assigned to us throughout our day. And
Yeah.
for professionals today, even without kids, we take on so much. We are
We do.
constantly saying yes to things we probably should be saying no to. We are constantly putting ourselves second to all the responsibilities that we have to take on. The way that our culture and our society and our just lifestyle is one of overwhelm 100% of the time. So when we set ourselves up for success with routines, then we have a lower chance of forgetting things in the car. That's why we say, if ever you're running an errand, don't take your pet, leave your pet at home. Like, it takes 2 seconds to walk into a grocery store, get distracted, and forget your pet was in the car. Leave your pets at home. Get into a routine where if you are taking your pet, you're doing something like putting your purse where the pet is. that's something that it becomes a routine, so you don't forget that pet or that child is there. um Brooke, hi Brooke, how are you, on Facebook, she says finding a routine as a full-time pet sitter seems impossible. And that's the problem with routines, is that I don't like the word. I wish that we could get into something like, maybe it's more of a rhythm than it is a routine, because rhythm has like a more fun, positive vibe to it. But it really is a matter of just kind of like scheduling something like self-care in the morning, where you wake up at 6 a.m. or 6:30 or 7, and you say, I'm going to walk the dog for 20 minutes. I'm not going to look at my phone. I don't care if the world is burning down around me. I'm taking that dog for a walk. And unless the fire is on my route, I won't find out about it until 7:30. And that's okay, right? Like, that should be something that we get to the point where we say, I am owning my time and I am owning my responsibilities. And I am saying, today I am doing this no matter what. And it's kind of like that book, Eat That Frog, where we
Yeah, oh, yeah.
always put things off and then we finally do them and it's like, it wasn't that bad. So like
Yeah.
eating that frog every day, where you kind of force yourself to do the things that you are like, oh, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And you get into the routine of literally saying, at 9 a.m., I eat the frog of the day. And
Yeah.
if people don't know what that's in reference to, it's a book called Eat That Frog. I've actually not read it. I've just heard about it so many times. And it's apparently like, if you have to eat a frog, it's going to be nasty and disgusting no matter when you do it. So you might as well just get it over with, right? So eat that frog is the idea that you just kind of like, you own that moment, you own that responsibility. You say, this is important to me. This has to get done, or I hate this, but I'm going to have to do it anyway. So you're going to do it. And Brooke responds, I guess routine is not impossible. Schedule is impossible. I do live off a routine. It's just the time varies greatly day to day. And I completely sympathize with professional pet sitters, because every single day is different. So somebody who works a 9 to 5, who maybe takes the same yoga class at 7 a.m. every morning, like, that is goals for me, right? Like, where I'm like, I wake up at 6, I go for a jog, I come back, I have my coffee. Like, that's goals for me. And I hope to attain that one day. But that's because I somewhat control my schedule, right? Because I work from home. Yes, I have kids, but if they don't go to school, then they just stay with me. So it's very different from a professional pet sitter's perspective. Yeah, you're driving all over God's creation. You have cancellations, additions. You wake up and you don't know what the day is going to hold. So if anybody can empathize with you, it is me for sure, Brooke, because it is so impossible. But the one thing that I remember learning when I wrote an article for Charleston Women about women who do triathlons. And there were all moms. All of the women that I interviewed were moms. And they said that if they did not train in the morning, it never got done. So like owning that morning, if you have a dog that you need to walk, your own dog. And I know a lot of dog walkers will walk everybody else's dog but their own, because by the time they get home, they're dead and they can't walk one more step. Walking that dog first thing in the morning, again, before you even look at your phone, before you look at anything, before you recognize that your plants haven't been watered for 3 days and they're fainting, don't look. It's like you're just walk that dog without looking at the rest of your life. And that's pretty much the only thing a lot of us can control, is that first maybe hour of our day, getting to bed earlier, getting into a routine. If you get into a routine like me, I have a cleaning lady that comes. I try to get her here every week, which is, I know I'm super spoiled, but it's like a very important part of my quality of life, and I forego other things for that. But the night before she comes, I clean the litter box. Because it's kind of messy, right? So I'll clean it before she comes, the night before, or that morning while she's cleaning upstairs. I'll clean the litter box, the robot. I'll empty it all out. Because I do it more often than it's supposed to be done, just because it's part of my entryway. It's in a room, but it's like right by the front door. So I want to be sure that my litter box is super clean. And if she misses a week, then I start smelling it, right? Because I've gotten into the routine where I do the litter box right before she comes. And again, it's just so that I'll vacuum after I clean up the litter box, but she'll do a much more like deep clean of the room. So it just makes sense to like tie those together. So again, it's just finding these little routines that help you stay on top of your million responsibilities. And those people that have tons of pets, I mean, you have how many cats?
Right now, 3.
So 3
So,
cats. How many litter
and
boxes?
a 6.
Exactly. So at
6.
some point in the day, you have to go in and scoop litter boxes. I
Oh,
assume you
yeah.
scoop them every day?
Many, many, many times a day. Yes,
Okay. So it's
absolutely.
and it's those things. I remember interviewing cat therapy, Haley Williams, and she talks a lot about like neurodivergence and like these tasks that we do as pet parents. And she also says like having the litter box where she can see it helped her get into a routine, because if she said that if it was like hidden away, she wasn't going
Yeah,
to remember it. So setting ourselves up for success is really what a routine is all about. It's about getting into a rhythm that you can kind of survive on, and that can help you navigate the craziness of life, because we have so many responsibilities. Diane says your cats don't seem to know times, they know routines. As in, when I wake for breakfast, when I enter the home, dinner, no matter what time I enter the home, they're ready to go. Exactly. And that gives them some kind of predictability, a semblance of control. You have 3 cats, you scoop litters all day. I have a robot litter box, so I have 2 litter boxes. The robot litter box actually I got because I was having a hard time finding a routine that helped or worked for me. And I was the only one in the house scooping the litter, and I didn't want it to become like yet another argument about like I do this and you don't do that. So I had the privilege of investing in a litter robot, and it has helped a lot. He has another litter box that he does not use at all, so it never gets scooped. Like I don't even know when the last
mhm,
time he used it, because he does not use it, so the litter's just sitting there getting dusty. I have to just change the litter just because it's dusty now. But that was something that I did because I could not fit that multiple times a day scooping, and I'm a multiple times a day kind of scooper too. Like I can smell
yeah,
from outside my front door. I can
yeah,
smell if he just had a bowel movement, right? So like
mhm,
I know. And so that helped me. And using technology, I just signed up for Motion for like task management. I thought that was really great because it helps me track my work assignments. So I entered all the tasks that I do in one week, and I click them off as I go. And I actually added checking emails, and I only limit myself to checking emails like, twice a day or once a day, so that I'm not constantly going back to check emails. It's kind of like, you don't want to constantly be going back to the litter box. You want to say, I'll do the litter box in the morning when, after the kids put their shoes on. I'll do the litter box at night after the kids go up to bed, whatever it is that helps you remember. But you don't want to be going back and forth a million times. That's why a routine helps you kind of put it in order. And Diane's asking us how many pets we have. I have 2. I have a dog and a cat, and Jess has 3 cats and a dog.
yeah. Interesting though, because someone we know, Alexa,
Mm-hmm.
mindful dog mom,
Mm-hmm.
one of her, so the dog she brought to Super Zoo this year, I don't know if you got to see the dog she
I
brought
don't
one
think
day,
so.
is suffering from sundowners as well. And
Oh, I just
so
saw that.
she just posted, like, do you have any tips? I wonder if you have any tips you could help her with.
Well, it's interesting. So my sister, I'm about to get a third pet. My sister's dog is going to come home and retire with me. He actually showed up at my front door in Louisiana in 2016, and he moved in with her that year. He's been going back and forth to and from Spain since. That dog has more miles on American Airlines than most people I know. But it's getting hard on him because we think he's starting to decline mentally and physically, because he's probably 10 now. And so those long haul trips are a lot. I mean, you're talking about getting in a crate in a town, taking a train in a city, then taxi to the train to the next city, another train to the airport. Like very few breaks in there. 9-hour flight from Madrid to Miami, even longer to El Paso because they have to go through Dallas. And Dallas, side note, apparently Dallas's dog like potty area is disgusting, where my mom and my sister almost hurled walking in there, and the dog would not even step foot in
Yeah.
it.
Oh
Okay.
gosh.
So this is really hard on him. So I'm going to end up with him here because we're not moving anymore. My sister just had a baby. Her life is a little bit chaotic right now. We're the perfect place for him to retire. So obviously we're happy to take him. And the first thing I'm going to do for him is put him on a routine.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm going to have a very serious conversation about with my family, and when I say family, I mean my husband and my 2 kids, is we need to prioritize his mental health because this is a
Mhm.
huge change for him. This is a new place for him. And the cat and Satchmo, this new dog, do not know each other. So making it so that it's predictable not only for him as the newbie, but for the 2 existing pets so that they can fall
Yeah.
into a routine, into a dynamic that's beneficial for all of them is going to be so important. So whenever there's a change, whether it be oh, it keeps freezing. Are you able to
Oh
hear me?
no. Yeah, I can hear you. You're not
Okay, good.
freezing for me, but go ahead.
What just changed? Did I
I
just put a
don't know.
filter on myself?
I don't
I feel
you
like I just put
definitely
a filter.
yeah, you look like sun-kissed
Oh
now.
my god, hilarious. How did I do
But is
that?
it I don't I have such a hard time with screen names. I'm just gonna say Diane. I don't know if that's your name. Yeah, I actually in
Okay, I think I took the
June,
filter
no,
off.
in July, I did a live with the 2 crazy cat ladies on hyperthyroidism in cats. So I would go check that out. It is on my timeline, but if that's difficult for you to find, because I know there's so much there, I also posted it to the podcast feed. So you can go to your podcast app and find it under the pet parenting reset. So that might be a little bit easier for you to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually do have, so my Romeo had hyperthyroidism. He just passed away. And then I still have Sissy, one of my other cats, who has hyperthyroidism. And she is doing what she is doing better at not eating as so Romeo was just constantly hungry. Sissy isn't. So it's really interesting how the same disease, the same
Mhm.
illness can present differently in different animals. I had no idea I knew something was going on with Romeo because he was screaming at me all day long for food, and Sissy never did that. I only found out because of her blood work. And so, yeah, it is interesting how it can be different. But she actually, fortunately, even like I did increase Romeo's medication one time and it like helped for like a week and he went right back to screaming at me for food all day
Well,
long.
that's another benefit of routines, isn't it? Like my sister and my mom think that that's one of the reasons they think that Satchmo is kind of declining mentally is because he keeps asking for food all the time and they've already fed him. And so
Mm,
they're like, is he forgetting or is he hungry or what's going on? Right. So that's like a red flag. It's something that tells
yeah.
you this pet is acting different. He's not falling in line with the usual routine, which is, where they find their like peace and their happiness. They're asking for more, or they're not showing interest in that food that they used to show interest in. Like if Van Gogh were one day to like not show up at 4:30 for his dinner, I'd be like, uh-oh, something's going
Well,
on.
yeah, that brings up a very important point that we hadn't talked about with routines, that it's not just beneficial for our pets, but it helps keep us on top of what's going on with them and
Yes.
changes in their attitude, their mood, their behavior, their feeding, their litter box usage, their going outside and potty. Like if we don't have them on routines, then we are less likely to notice changes.
Yes.
And that is the first sign, especially for our cats,
Oh my
because
gosh.
they're so good at hiding when something isn't right, when they're not feeling well. They're so good at hiding it. So, yeah, that is a really important part of it that we had not talked about at all yet.
Yeah, I think that living in chaos, I mean, it's inevitable sometimes. I mean, if you saw my office right now, you'd be like, Isabel, what is happening? I am drowning in papers and charging cables like that. I'm drowning in them. So what I've done is I've brought them all together in my office, right? All the cords I find, I just put them in here, and we're going to go through them eventually. But at some point, right? At some point in the future, we're going to go through them. But right now, they're just here and it's chaos. And what happens with that is that now it affects everything else, right? My living in chaos means that I can't find my camera, which is why the like video is not as good on YouTube and Facebook as it's been in the past, because I couldn't find the camera, because I live in such chaos. And so it starts to kind of affect everything else, to the point
Yeah.
where you start missing things, to the point where it's the same thing that happens if you get a bill. You know, everybody has everything on auto pay, but sometimes you get a bill and you're like, a
Yeah.
bill? What the heck
I
am I supposed to do with
know.
this? This is a bill? Like, who do I owe? Why don't they just bill me online? Right? But you get a bill, and now the second you put it down, if you don't have a routine, and if you don't have some kind of organization or system in your home, you're going to forget that bill. No doubt about it. That bill is going to go to the bottom of the pile, and you're going to get another bill that says like whatever, final notice or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
these things
Yeah.
happen because we're kind of living in chaos. So I'm a big systems and processes person. And it's funny because my house, if I had systems and processes, husbands and children, then maybe my house would run like a well-oiled machine. My business used to run like a well-oiled machine. My actual business, my writing business runs like a well-oiled machine for the most part. And it's because I am the only one with my hands in that. And that's when it gets really cloudy, is when you have a partner or children who are sharing in your pet care routines and they're not seeing it through. And I think that one of the biggest things we can say is, if your child is not old enough, mature enough, reliable enough to manage one of your pet's routines, you need to take it over. Nobody told you to go get that pet for your dog, that for your kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody told you it was a good idea when your kid was like, I want a hamster. You knew that kid was not going to take care of that hamster. So now it's your routine to take on, and it's your responsibility to take on. So finding a system, a rhythm with your family, or just taking ownership of it, which is what I do. I take ownership of it. So my husband just got yelled at the other day because he's just feeding my dog, right? Like, he does the basic. He does the kibble with the bone broth and whatever we're topping with it, right? But there are extras that I like to give her. I like to give her a calming supplement. I like to give her CBD. I like to give her Alchemy Pets Rescue. I like to just boost the bowl a little bit. And so when I'm feeding her, there are steps that are taken. When he's feeding her, that's it.
Yeah.
Plop, plop.
Yeah.
And so I had to have a come to Jesus with my husband, and was like, because he had the audacity to tell me, Kira's looking old. And I'm like, are you giving her the good stuff? No.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it impacts their life, their quality of life, their length, their longevity. Even it could impact if we don't kind of like stay with these routines. It's kind of like me ordering really expensive supplements for myself and not getting in a routine to take them, right? Like, what good
Yeah.
are those supplements when they're just sitting on my counter and not in my body? They're not very good, right? So
Very true.
again, it's like, these routines are not only just so that we can be organized and like checking off things off our list, but they really help us live the way we want to live. Because if we don't get into a routine, we're never going to feed that extra supplement to our pet. We're never going to scoop that litter box. We're never going to take them for a walk. Everything becomes more important. Everything is going to pull you away from these responsibilities, because it's like we live in this, reactive world where we just have to react to the phone call and react to this, and we have to react to that. And, I was getting ready for this live and my doorbell rang, and I ran down and I'm like, why am I running down the stairs? Like, that person doesn't have an appointment with me. Why am I running down the stairs? They could literally sit there for an hour. I don't care, because I'm not expecting them and I have something else happening. So it's like that talking to yourself and saying, like, this is the routine that I need to do now in order to set myself up for success. And I will not let anybody or anything get between it. and planning your life. Like if I'm, if my husband's picking up the kids to take them to karate, then I'm staying home and I'm feeding the pets at 4:30 because we can't both be in one place at once, right? So we share that responsibility and taking that responsibility really seriously, because obviously he can't half-ass picking up the kids. I need them to fully be in the car, in their car seats, at karate. You know what I mean? He needs to
Yeah.
really do
Yeah.
that. And I need to be here really doing the feeding and like washing the bowls and making sure that things that have to happen. And another routine that I have is when my cleaning lady's here, I wash the bowls. I always wash them before I feed, but I put them in the dishwasher. And I put a few things that only wash once a week in the dishwasher. I put it all in, like the little tray where my dish soap sits, the rubber mats that I use to dry. I put all of that in the dishwasher, sanitize it, and that's every time she comes. So whenever she doesn't come, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it this week. I didn't sanitize
Yeah.
the bowls
That
this
makes
week.
a big difference, doesn't it?
Pairing
Makes a
things
big
is
difference.
huge.
Yes. In fact, and I know this is totally off topic, but since you brought up pairing things, I have been trying so hard, and I'm going to say it out loud because I need to hold myself accountable. I love Mel Robbins.
So do I. I just
I
listened to her latest
love,
podcast about forgetting her boots.
I haven't listened to her podcast in a little while, but there are things that I keep trying to remember to pair with brushing my teeth in the morning, and I have been forgetting. I'm not doing them, and I need to do them, and I need to hold myself accountable because I want to high five myself in the mirror in the morning. I want to say affirmations, like looking into my eyes in the mirror in the mornings, and pairing them with something you already do, that like there is no question. I get out of bed in the morning, I pee, I brush my teeth. Those, like, that's what I do
Yes.
in the
Yes.
morning. The only
Yes.
thing that will keep me from doing that is if when I get out of bed, Kim jumps up and is like, "Oh, I need to go potty right away." I'm going to take her out first, and then I'm going to pee and I'm going to brush my teeth. But like that doesn't happen very often. She normally just is chill until
She knows
I
the routine. Yeah.
she knows the routine. So like I am trying, but that is one of the things that you are supposed to do, is pairing something new with something already established.
Or
And that
something unpleasant with something pleasant, like
pleasant.
the
Yeah.
podcast with the very hot walk. Like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it's here, like in the morning, when I walk Kira, it's early, say 7:38, and sometimes in the summer it's already 100 degrees. And so I put on one of my Bravo podcast, Bravo TV. I love the Housewives. I love all that nonsense. And so I don't watch it because I don't have time. So I put a recap podcast on, and it makes it so much more pleasant because I'm like sweating, I'm struggling,
Yeah.
but I'm laughing because, Watch What Crappen said something funny, or Danny Pellegrino. Those are my favorites. They are just hilarious. And I'm like the crazy person walking with a cat on my back sometimes. Not when it's too hot, but this morning
Yeah.
I walked with the cat on my back, the dog, and I'm very bad about bringing my headphones, so I just listen to it out loud. And I'm so sorry if they drop an F-bomb and you were out gardening and heard it. I don't even care, because it's one of those things that makes the activity so much more palatable, right?
Yeah.
Washing dishes while listening to a podcast, game changer.
Yes. Yeah.
Game changer.
I used to have shows that I enjoyed so much. I only allowed myself to watch them when I was on the treadmill. But now that I actually go to a gym, I have to be listening to something that is upbeat, that is enjoyable. And I had gotten in a routine of listening to Mel Robbins or some other podcast while I was working out, but some of them get a little too deep. I had to stop. And now it's
Yeah.
like
You need something
I
light.
I
Yeah.
have like specific music on Spotify that I,
Mhm.
listen to. But that is something that, like, I remember that. I would not want to get on the treadmill, but I'm like, I can't watch whatever show unless I'm on the treadmill. So I would get on the
Yeah.
treadmill.
Yeah. So one of the things that you guys, if you have Alexa, and all of my Alexas are going to be like, yes. If you have a smart device like Alexa at your house, set alarms. So like, let's say that you load the dishwasher every night at 9 p.m. set an alarm, a routine, literally, it's called a routine in the Alexa app, where it starts playing the music you like, or it starts playing a podcast you like. I mean, Covered in Pet Hair, the Pet Parenting Reset. We're on Amazon. So you can listen to our podcast. You can listen to music. Because Kira is a little nervous and has separation anxiety, I have Alexa set for a routine. I started this in around July 4th, like right before July 4th, just because I wasn't going to be here for the summer and I knew she was going to be alone. But it plays classical music starting at 4 every day. So between 4 and 6, like if we're out and usually I'm home because I work till about 5. But if I'm out, at least she knows that music's playing. So it's kind of like a routine that happens automatically. And if there is a storm, which the weather usually starts to change around that time, it kind of dulls it a little bit. So it's one of those things that I started like thinking it would be temporary, and now it's all the time. And for my kids, waking them up, right now they wake up super early and they don't need an alarm. But when they were sleeping in a little bit more, I would play music for them in the morning instead of an alarm. It would start with like music that they liked, right? And it would be a routine on Alexa that she would play, like Diana and Roma. And if you're a mom, you know who they are. If you don't know who they are, you're lucky. It's a Russian duo that sings poppy music, and actually it's very good. And they have amazing music videos.
Okay.
But like nothing gets my kids going like Diana and Roma, so I would put that on. And so it's funny to see like how these little things kind of like improve your day. And now that we have technology, like using things like a to-do list app that like it's an AI, the one that I use, it's called
Yeah, I was just looking it up.
Motion. It's AI. So like I put in when the due date is, and it kind of assigns me when I should work on it based on the whole week tasks that I have. And it reminds me when things are kind of past due or coming up. It will divide things into chunks. If let's say I'm editing a video and I only want to do that for an hour at a time, I can put in like an hour chunk and it'll separate it into 3 different days, however long it takes for me to do. I have a lot of clients that I write for weekly. So I want to make sure that I always want to be with this blog always comes out on Tuesdays. So I put that in, and when I can check it off on the weekends. Like this weekend I worked. My work hours in the app are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but I checked it off and it put it on, like checked off on Saturday night. So I can track also my hours and how much time I'm working, which is really good for us to know as freelancers too. Like, how long did this really take me? Am I making any money based on what I'm charging, or should I be charging more just because of how long it took me to complete that project? Using technology, using your calendar. My son is getting his palette expanded, and so my husband added like when we need to like tighten or loosen the expander, he put it on our calendar. So our iCal will like alert us. My husband he doesn't do it anymore, but he used Alexa to like give my kids the like 15-minute warning for bedtime. It'll say like, bedtime alarm, blah, blah, blah. Right. So 15 minutes till bedtime. And so these routines help us anticipate. And just like with a neurodivergent child where transitions are hard, I think transitions are hard for everybody. So like, right now we're all going back to school, kind of foreseeing that, getting back into a routine before the school year starts if you're not started yet, or giving yourself grace if you started and you're still in chaos. We started August 5th and we're still in chaos, and it's almost a month later. So I'm hoping that by September 5th, we'll have a better routine going for this year. And then, October, it'll be all messed up because there'll be another break, and then we'll find a way back into that routine. And that's just how it goes. It ebbs and flows. So making sure that you don't like get down on yourself when you fail to meet that rhythm or routine that you set for yourself. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. There's always tomorrow. Just because you didn't get something right today the way you wanted it to does not mean that you need to give up, because tomorrow is a new day. And I mean, and that's something that we all do. I can't talk about being a parent. Obviously, you can, but being a pet parent, I think we all like learn something and then feel bad that we didn't know it before, and feel bad that we now feel like we did something quote unquote wrong. But we did the best we
The
could, the
guilt,
best we knew.
the
Yeah,
mom guilt, pet mom guilt, whatever.
please
Yes.
don't. Like, I get it. I feel it too, but it is such a hindrance to moving forward and doing better moving forward that like we just have to figure out ways to get past it, whatever
Yeah.
that may be for you. And I mean, I've gotten better at it over the years for sure. I still have things that I literally will like wake up in the middle of the night from a dead sleep, like I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I did that and 10 years ago, whatever. But like, we just have to try to move on and move past it and know that we're doing the best we can. And tomorrow is a new day, and we have
Yeah.
every opportunity to do everything the way we want to do it tomorrow and to do it.
Give yourself the grace you'd give your bestie. Like, your bestie, like, works hard. She's a boss bitch. She's doing everything. And sometimes she drops a ball. You would never be so cruel to your bestie as you are to yourself, right? Like, you would be like, oh my gosh, she's juggling so many things. Of course she dropped a ball. But yourself, you're like, how dare you drop a ball? So remember that think about the people that you so respect and you have so much, you look up to and you have so much love for, and think like, would I hold them this accountable?
Right.
No,
Well,
probably
and
not.
I think as women, we're so much worse about doing that too, to ourselves.
Yes. I don't need anybody to hold me accountable because I hold myself so accountable, and I learn from my mistakes because I refuse to feel that way again, right? Like, I feel so bad. I hate to feel like I failed.
I know.
That I really do. And what I do instead of beating myself up is I just get down to the basics. Like, I need to come up with a system so that this doesn't happen again. What is that system? And for sometimes with parenting or pet parenting, right? Like, there's that meme that goes around. I think it was going around where like somebody showed up to the vet for a vet appointment without the pet. Right? Like, these things happen. Like, literally, these things happen. So they're like, I know I have an appointment. Where's the pet? And I don't know if it's true or false or fake or just for social, but like, these things happen. I remember when I had just had Noah, I went to a breastfeeding like meeting. It was like through the La Leche League, and I was super excited, and I got there a day early because my brain was not working. And so I take my newborn and my cover, and I'm ready to learn all about breastfeeding, and I was a day early. And all the people there were like, there's nothing on our calendar. It was like they had rented it, like third party situation. So the people who worked there were like, I have no idea. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Like this. So it starts becoming an issue. And then I look at my phone and I'm like, oh my God, it's tomorrow. I'm so sorry. So these things happen. And it's just kind of like, learning, coming up with a system and letting your pets guide you in that system too. So like, sometimes we really want to get into a system that just does not work. Right? Like, where we're like, I want to walk the dog at like 10 p.m. Well, my dog may not want to do that. Like, she would be like,
she's in bed. She's like,
exactly. She last night I was up at 11 because I have COVID. So I slept until like noon. And so like at 11 o'clock at night, I wasn't tired and I'm feeling way better. So I went downstairs and I did some stuff in the kitchen, and like none of the pets were there. Not one. Usually the cat's like there while I'm cleaning. He's like swatting the water. He's rolling around the counter after I clean it, which is his like signature thing to do, which is super annoying because I literally clean the counter and then he just like rolls all over it. So I have to clean it in the morning again. But he was dead to the world. So was Kira. And when I finally came back up at midnight, I opened my door and Kira's like, where you been? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you up so late? Because in our house by 9 p.m., it's quiet.
Yeah. I get it. Kim will put hers. Actually, when I was out of town, my husband said, Kim, because he doesn't like to go to bed early. I do. I mean, early to him is like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I'm like, done. And I'm like, I've got to get in bed. I can't.
Yeah.
And so he was like just not going to bed. And so she just put herself in bed and was like, see you tomorrow.
I feel like I'm still waiting. My kids are little, so I'm still waiting for them to put themselves to bed. But sometimes Noah will say like, All right, I'm tired, Mom. It's time.
Yeah.
And he like
Yeah.
cooperates, right? So they get to the
Right.
point where they recognize what they need and we got to follow their lead. If I were to be like, "Nah, you got to stay up," then if I get like a tantrum out of it, then that's my fault, right? So like being
Yeah.
really aware of everybody's needs is really important as a parent, as a pet parent. But the only way that we can really like meet all of our demands is getting in that routine. Like there's no other way. And if you have to wake up at 6 a.m. to get that run in for that triathlon, then that's what you got to do. You won't see me running at 6 a.m. to train for a triathlon. You might see me running at
Nope.
6 a.m., but not training for a triathlon. I've got enough on my plate. But
I
that's,
don't,
you know,
you won't catch me running. You won't catch me doing anything at 6
I
a.m.
mean, we just
So.
saw the Olympics, right? Like, how do you think those people get to the point where they're at the Olympics?
Oh, for
Routines.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are
Yeah.
dedicated.
Discipline.
Seriously. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And like
For
that
sure.
discipline is, it's hard at first. But what do they say? It takes like 2 weeks to really get into a habit. So a routine is kind of like a positive habit.
I think it's 60 days.
60 days?
I think so. I think that's a thing. There's like a book about it, I think. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's 60
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I
Or
think it's
to
60.
end a bad habit, something it's like 2 weeks or something. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So it's even if it's 60 days and not 2 weeks, like it's still attainable, right? It's just one day
Oh,
at a
yeah.
time till you get to the 60 days. But yeah,
Maybe it's 30. I don't know.
I don't
Don't ask
remember.
me. No. Well, I think we said all there is to say.
We did. And if you're
Um,
having a hard time with routines, be kind to yourself. That's all that I want. Of course,
yeah.
we know the benefits. We know how awesome it is. We know that it's goals. Like, I know I have so many routine goals, and every day I'm like, oh my God, I need to get into a routine. But even the little routines that we do have really do help us. So just celebrate those and celebrate the fact that you're, attaining some of them, and one day at a time.
One day at a time. I love that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, for being here, for asking your questions and putting in your comments. We will be back next Monday.
And
On YouTube.
we found a situation,
Yeah, you did.
news that somebody's pet was spayed while she went in for a dental. So we're going to kind of break down that news, break down what happened. We're going to talk about, for those who really are concerned about something like that happening, things that you can do to be proactive. This is not unheard of in the human world, where somebody goes in for
True.
like a meniscus tear on the right and they do the left by
Yeah.
mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so these things happen. So let's talk about these errors that could happen at the vet, especially now that, vets are kind of like getting in and out. We talked about the corporate buyouts of veterinary clinics. We talked about how that affects quality and care. And so let's break this news piece down next Monday, and we'll talk about like how we can navigate these uncertainties and prevent them from happening to our pets.
Yeah, absolutely. That's scary as heck to me. So
I know, it's so scary. It's scary if we
we'll talk
ever
about
have to
it.
go under.
It is. Oh my gosh. It really,
Terrifying.
really is.
Human error is a thing, right? And we just don't want that
is.
error to be on us or our pets. So let's figure
Right.
out how we can set ourselves and them up for success. You guys have a great rest of the week. Thank you for joining us, talking to us. And we will see you next Monday, same time, 3:00 Mountain Standard Time and 4:00 Central. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.